Welcome to Between the Poles, the podcast where we dive deep into the heart of the pole community. I'm your host, Caroline. Here, it's not just about the tricks and the spin, it's about the stories, the people, and the connection that make our community so special. Every episode, we sit down with pole artists, studio owners, and inspiring members of the community to talk about their journeys, challenges, and passions. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's get real. This is Between the Poles.
Hi, Diana. Thank you so much for being on today. Welcome to Between the Poles. We're so pumped to have you on. And yeah, I want to kind of get right into it. I kind of start the podcast with the same question for every guest, just so our viewers and our listeners get to kind of have a better background idea of how you started pole, how long ago, how did you even hear about pole, kind of all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I started pole 10 years ago. So it's crazy. It's been a while. But basically I used to be a gymnast growing up, and I did gymnastics until age 15. And then after that, I quit, and I was really feeling a bit lost. I was missing like a big part of myself because gymnastics was such a big part of my identity growing up. And so I tried like yoga, I tried dance, but nothing really hit the same as gymnastics did. And I was really just trying to find a different hobby. Um, and then one day, when I was 17, I came across a YouTube video of a pole dancer doing like a competition routine. And I was so mesmerized because I had never seen pole performed in such like an artistic and acrobatic way. And I was instantly like drawn to it. So I kept like looking for more like pole dancing videos on YouTube. And I was like, wow, like it's such a cool thing. Like it looks so fun. And I felt like I could really see myself doing that. So I went on Google and looked up pole studios in my area. And luckily, I found a few. I really didn't think I was going to find any, but I found a few near me. And I, I was 17 at the time, and I was like, obviously, a full time student. I didn't even have like a part time job. Like, I had no income. So I had to ask my mom to pay for my pole lessons. And thankfully, she agreed after, I explained, like, look, it's kind of like gymnastics, artistic. Like, she was like, okay. So thankfully, she agreed to pay for my pole lessons. And yeah, ever since my first class, like, I just instantly fell in love with it. And I, I knew that this was it for me. So yeah, it's interesting because, back then, obviously, no one around me would have ever imagined that I would have made a career out of pole dancing. But, here I am 10 years later. Yeah.
Love that. And I have a bunch of questions because I ask all the guests on the podcast the same question, right? And then it's hard for people to kind of tell me their whole journey in like 1 minute of like, here's where I come from, I started or whatever. Okay, so one, you had a gymnastic background. So I feel it kind of answers my question because I feel like guests either go two ways. Either you start not gymnast, you started pole
Yeah.
and you're like, I gotta build strength to be able to invert or stuff, or you came to pole with a fitness background and you're like, I had no issues
Yeah.
inverting. I just had to learn the technique.
Yeah.
Was that your case?
So honestly, like when I saw the videos, I was like, oh, I could totally do that before I actually went for my first class. But then my first class, I was actually surprised by how difficult it was. But yeah, like it's always been challenging. Like pole is really difficult, and although like I had like good upper body strength, and I had like good hand grip strength, um it still was so much more challenging and painful than I ever would have imagined. I did not expect like the pain from like the skin bruises and everything. But I do remember that my instructor at the time, like from my very first class, she commented on my upper body strength. Like I was just doing fireman spins, and she was like, "Oh wow, like you have really good upper body strength." And so that kind of gave me motivation to keep going because it felt like she saw like I had potential. Um, so yeah, I feel like in terms of like inverting, I had like the strength, I guess, to go upside down, but it was not pretty. But I think yeah, like I think my third class, I tried to invert for the first time and I managed, but it was nothing like I do today. It was very ugly, but it did help, of course,
That's all
having the
right.
background.
We
Yeah,
all start somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
I feel some people like that was me. I came to pole with no fitness background, so I did not
Mhm.
invert on class three. But then I'm like, and yay and nay, right? Both
Yeah,
categories come with pros and cons because then
yeah,
I got to like learn everything and like really have to focus with like all of it. And then some of the guests that are on are like, oh no, I was like so strong when I came to pole. Like, yeah, class one, two, three, I learned how to invert.
yeah.
I'll ask you this though, because that was your background. Do you feel you kind of just like skyrocket in your pole journey, but at some point you're like, I'm missing kind of certain pieces because you're so strong and like flexible and all that, probably that you're like, okay, I'm now in like an advanced class, but I'm missing some of the basics, or I can't remember the name of all the moves and how I'm supposed to get in and out of them because you kind of
Yeah.
just go high just so fast?
Honestly, that's a really good question, and I feel like there's yes, like definitely. But I remember like my first studio, it wasn't even like chrome poles. It was like these like really weird like painted metal poles. Like it was weird. Yeah, and the texture like it was quite grippy. Um and I remember like about like 2 or 3 years into my pole journey is when I went to like a proper pole studio that had proper poles. And I signed up for the level 4 class, like the most advanced class they had, because I was like, oh, I've been doing this for 3 years. Like I know what I'm doing. Because at my other studio, it wasn't like it was like a fitness studio, and they had pole as well, but it was weird poles that they would like take off like every start of the class, and it was weird. So, anyways, my first class at a proper pole studio, it was very humbling and embarrassing because I couldn't even properly climb the pole because it was so slippery. Like I was not used to the feeling of a chrome pole. So although like on those grippier poles that, I had experience on, I could do like Allegra, I could do Jade Split, easily. On the chrome poles, it was very challenging. And then the instructor was like, oh, like, excuse me, like, just to let you know, like, this is the advanced class. And I was like, I am advanced though. It's just, this is so slippery. And she was like, maybe you should try the lower level first. And I was just like really embarrassed. But yeah, I feel like the thing with me is like I've always been very flexible. So from the very beginning, like my instructors noticed that and they're like, okay, like you do like this split move and this split move and you can do this. So they were showing me everything involving splits, and I wasn't really getting to learn like more like strength-based moves. And I feel like even today, like I struggle with certain strength-based moves because I just never really yeah, I definitely skipped through some of the basics, I would say.
And then I'll just also mention this for like some of our viewers and our listeners, because people from all around the world tune in. Thank you, by the way, for listening. Diana and I are in Canada. And Diana, you can correct me if that wasn't your, but here there's kind of, I would say, three or four main poles that we use. So there's chrome, which would be what in Canada, at least, you would find at most pole studio, right?
Mhm.
And out here, we kind of call it like competition poles because that's what you would compete on in most competitions as well. There's then stainless steel poles. There's also brass poles, which like are little, they're like the golden ones for people that don't know. And they're kind of a little, they absorb more of your sweat. So they're really good for people with like more sweaty palms. And a
Mhm.
lot of people also really enjoy like starting to learn a move on a brass. And then when they feel like they have the grip on it, then they'll move on to kind of stainless steel or chrome. And then there's this like powder coated poles that are probably what you've started learning on. Because I've
Yeah.
only seen those once, and it was in a random studio I tried in Montreal at some point, and it
Mhm.
was such a different textures. Like, I get what you mean. And for people listening, it's kind of like I didn't really need any grip aid on those poles.
Yeah.
It kind of absorbed your sweat and it just felt like more tacky. And
Hmm.
same as kind of what you were saying, like I
Yeah.
remember too, like when you do a jade split on it, I could go deeper in my jade split because I didn't feel I was gonna lose any contact point.
Yeah.
Remember the first time like doing a jade split on like a stainless steel, which is the like more the slipperiest
Yes.
of all of these, and I just kind of like fell to the floor,
Yeah.
losing. So yeah,
Yeah.
just out there for the viewers and listeners, because like depending on the country you're on, sorry, maybe you don't
Yeah.
have these options, but out here you do have a couple of different things, and they do really change how you
It
feel.
makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, it really
Yeah.
does. All right. And then I kind of want to touch up a little bit on, okay, so you've started polling, right? And then you're now in kind of level 4. You're learning all these like advanced fundamental moves and advanced kind of move altogether. How do you go from that to where you're at now, right? So how did you keep progressing? And then there's just so much I want to touch up with you, but like, because you compete and all that. So when was your first competition? How did you even like be like, oh, I kind of want to compete? Like, how did that decision come?
Yeah. So one thing that I really loved in gymnastics was the competitions, and I really missed that when I quit. So finding out that there were pole competitions, it was just so exciting for me. And I feel like that's kind of like what kept me going, is because my goal was like, okay, I'm gonna compete one day, and one day like I'm gonna win a pole competition. Um and so yeah, like, my first competition was in 2019, and that was 4 years into my pole journey. Um and I won. I didn't think I was going to win or anything, but obviously winning was very nice. But it also created like a lot of pressure on myself, because if you win your first pole competition, like you can't go back to like not winning the second one or the third one. So, but anyways, sorry, going back to your question, like how did I get from there to now? I feel like well, after my first pole competition, COVID happened shortly
Oh,
after. And then the timing of everything just really felt into place for me, because I had just moved out with my friend who was also a pole dancer. So for the first time, I had access to a pole at home. And we had just moved like 3 months before the pandemic. And then when everything like locked down, I started working from home, and I just had a lot more time on my hands to practice at home. So I feel like that's kind of what kept me sane, is like having a pole in my apartment. It kept me going throughout the lockdown, and I think that I really improved in that way. Um, but then after that, I feel like I kind of lost, motivation for training somewhere along the way, because I started my business and I was like really focused on that. And like pole for me now is also like work and my entire life. So it's harder for me to actually make time to do it for myself and to do it for fun. So what I've been doing for the past like year and a half is I've been really trying to sign up for private lessons with various instructors whenever I can. And actually, like now I've made it more of like a regular thing. So every week I do like a private lesson with an instructor, and I feel like that really helps me stay like motivated, because if I'm booking a lesson, then I'm showing up for my practice. If it's just in my calendar, like I might skip it. So I feel like private lessons, especially like when you reach a level where you're more advanced and the tricks are like a lot more dangerous, like you can't just learn on your own. I feel like private lessons really are key, because there's always so much to learn, and that's so fun about pole. Like even if you're at a level where you're considered advanced, like there's still tricks that you have yet to learn. There's different combos, there's different transitions. So Yeah, it's fun. It's exciting.
I also like that you touch up on private lessons with different instructor, right? Because I try to tell my students here too, like go to different instructors,
Mhm.
class, privates and stuff like that. Everybody has different areas where they shine, right?
Mhm.
And whole is so diverse. Like you can be really advanced in static dynamics, but
Mhm.
really struggle with like flowy spin transitions and like how to build like combos, or like you want to learn different entries and different exit, and different people at different level will have what kind of you're looking for. So I would
Exactly.
100% agree with you. And
Yeah.
I can imagine at like the level, I'm not an amazing polar by no, but I look at people and I'm like, I wonder. And then the more I do this podcast, I'm like, okay, no, everybody has other people that can help
Yeah.
them. No one
Yes.
insane at everything, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses, and even with my instructors who I really look up to, sometimes they're like, "Oh, like that move that you do all the time, like I really struggle with that," or like I'm scared to do that move, and I'm like, "Really? I would have assumed that you could do it because for me it's so easy, but just because it's easy for one person, it doesn't mean that it's easy for the next person, even if both of you are considered advanced."
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
then, all right, so you've done the first competition, that went well. Can I kind of ask you at the same time, how did you prep yourself for that first competition? How did you come up with like a routine? Like, how did you build that?
Um, well, for me, like music is so important, and I feel like I really struggle to come up with choreography if I'm not like really like in love with the song. So, I always really resonated with the song Dirty Diana by Michael Jackson.
Mhm.
There's yeah, it's like a full circle moment because like the first time I ever saw like a pole artist was at the Michael Jackson Immortals Cirque du Soleil show when I was like 14. And um and I believe like she was doing a routine to Dirty Diana, and then later on like it just so happened that I chose Dirty Diana for my pole routine as well for my first competition. And since like I was really in love with the song, I really just wanted to embody the character, and that's kind of like where I drew my inspiration. And I felt like excited about it because it felt like finally, like I had the skill set and like the movement vocabulary to like do the song justice. So
Yeah. How did other competition go after that? Because you said, yeah, you won your first one and then you kind of keep going. And I know I creeped your Instagram, obviously. So I know you competed more than just
yeah.
that. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, how those went, how you train for that, how you prepare for that?
Yeah. So after my first one in the fall of 2019, I signed up for like two or three more in 2020, but none of those happened because of the pandemic. So then I only was able to compete again in 2022, so 3 years later. Um, and I was super, super nervous because, like I said, I did put a lot of pressure on myself because I was like, well, I want to like, you know, place at least in the top three for this one as well. Um, so I kind of stayed within my comfort zone. Um, I feel like the the second routine that I did was kind of like an elevation of the first one. Is like a different song, different concept, but a lot of the combos and the movements were um just like what I was super comfortable with and that I knew like I could hit consistently. Um and I feel like the hardest part for the 2022 routine was working on my stamina and my cardio because I could do like each specific combo and trick like individually if I film it for Instagram and it's like a 1 minute video. But to put it all together in a 4 minute routine, like that was really challenging. And my routine was also quite like there was a lot. Like it was like a Russian exotic style. So there was a lot of drops and kips and like it required a lot of power and like energy. And I don't know how I did it, but I just kept repeating it over and over until eventually it felt easy. So yeah, and it went well. I won the PSO Canada 2022 and the artistic level 5. And then because of that, I qualified for nationals in 2023, and then I won that as well with the same routine. So I was really proud of myself. And then I retired that routine, and now looking back, I don't even like it anymore. I'm like, I can't like I hate this choreography because I did it so much that now like I really want to create something different, like very different than all of what I've done so far. But yeah, I'm proud of my journey.
Sorry, you cut out there. Do you still want to compete?
Yes, I still want to compete, definitely. I just I want to create something completely different than what I've done so far. So um now it's like the challenge of like coming up with like new choreography that actually feels like a challenge for me. So I'm not like giving myself a deadline. I started working on the routine, but I'm kind of just like going with the flow. Like whenever it's ready, like I'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. And see, I think that's a different approach from what we've heard from guests on the podcast so far. I feel a lot of people say like they sign up for a competition and then usually like 8 to 6 week they'll start like putting pieces together. I like that you're going the other way. You're like, let me build something I enjoy, and when that's ready, then I'll compete.
Yeah. Oh wow. 8 to 6 weeks. That gives me anxiety. Like, no, I always for every competition I've taken like I think 4 months at least to prepare. So yeah, like I feel like it takes me a lot of time to really perfect my execution. Um
But
yeah.
like it depends on the people too, right? Some of
Yeah.
the we have on, like by the time that they take the decision to compete, they already know what the combos are going to be.
Right.
And it's 6 weeks ahead of time, but it's how they're linking this together, how they're
Yeah.
moving the pole. Some people said they take more time, but it's because they then like sit and be like, okay, what could I include? What should I
Yeah, that's
like?
more like me. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on like how you go into it.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't compete. That's not where I shine. Okay, I don't want to like spend all the time on competition because you're such a like multifaceted polar, and I want us to
Thank
be
you.
able to touch on like a bunch of
Yeah.
different things. One, I find this insane. You performed as a I'm not even sure how to call it, as a backup dancer for Snoop Dogg, as a performer, an
As
artist.
as
His
a I really think it's just as a pole dancer because he also had backup dancers. So I feel like we were just the pole dancer.
All right, I
Yeah.
want to like hear about that. Like that to me is so interesting and such a massive like thing.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell us about how did that happen? How do you get to go on stage with Snoop Dogg? Like, how do you make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, that was like a major career milestone for me. And actually, it's something that I feel like I had been manifesting for 5 years before it happened. Because in 2019 is when I first found out that Snoop Dogg usually does have pole artists on stage with him. And I was like, oh my God, like that's gonna be me one day. Like it has to be me one day. And so I kind of just kept an eye out for like whenever he would tour. Um, but he didn't tour Canada again until 2024. So, so in 2024, Nicole DePole, I love her. She announced on her social media that she was the casting director for the show and that she was looking for Canadian pole dancers. And it was this like nationwide casting call and you just had to submit videos of yourself performing to like other songs and as well performing to some of Snoop's songs. And so I did my best. I felt like I really had to step out of my comfort zone for the audition because usually like to be perfectly honest, like I never danced to rap. Like I always danced to more like rock and R&B. So it felt like it wasn't really like my place. Like I felt out of place, you know? Definitely. So I was honestly surprised when she picked me, but I was so happy and so grateful. But then after the initial like, oh my God, I'm gonna dance with Snoop Dogg, I started getting so anxious. Like I had so much anxiety, and like that's when the imposter syndrome hit. I was like, oh my God, like there's so many talented dancers, especially in Montreal. Like there's so many talented dancers here. And I was like, I feel like maybe I'm not the best one for this gig. Like I feel like I don't want to embarrass myself. Like what if I was just thinking like all the worst case scenarios that could happen, and I almost like wanted to like drop out and be like, I can't do this. Because I was so anxious. But thankfully, like once I met Nicole in person, a couple hours before the show. So up until then, I was still freaking out. But just a couple hours before the show, I started actually like feeling like, okay, like it's gonna go well, it's gonna be fine, because Nicole, like, she has such a grounding presence, and calming presence, and I felt like, okay, I'm just gonna do my best. I know I'm good at this, and clearly she thinks I'm good, so it's gonna be fine. And I just remember like, being backstage waiting to go on, because we started the show, like we opened the show. And yeah, it was crazy. Like just hearing like 15,000 people like cheering for Snoop Dogg, and like I almost like started crying because I'm like, oh my God, like this is what I've like wanted for so many years. It's just like to feel this experience, and it's like the most surreal experience, and I want to do it again. Now that I've done it, I want to do it again.
I have a question
Yeah.
because I have no idea, right? So let's say you're okay, basically, like, how does it work? So you get picked. Do you then, like, how much info do you have? Do they tell you, like, oh, you're going to be on stage for this song, create something to this song? Do you go in and then they tell you, like, kind of what they want, what moves and stuff, and you guys have to, like, just give them the moves they want? Like, how does it work?
So for Snoop's shows, it's freestyle. So the dancers just have the um like the flexibility to do like whatever they really want, whatever they're best at. And Nicole really, really stressed that, and she was like, I don't care about like your hardest tricks. Like I don't care if you could do a bird of paradise. If the way that you get into it and the way that you get out of it is not pretty, like it doesn't matter, because you're on stage. It's a rap concert. People don't know pole dancing the way that we know pole dancing. And honestly, like I tried to just remember that. Like when I watch my videos, like I'm very much like a perfectionist. And when I watch my videos, I'm like, oh, I could have added this trick and I could have done this. Like, I didn't do enough or whatever. But no, because honestly, the audience loved it. Like the audience was cheering the loudest, I think, when you do an invert. Like, the audience doesn't really care. And as long as you do like something that looks cool, like throw in some splits, like some inverts, whatever, like they're gonna feel like it's the coolest thing that they've ever seen. So, I, especially since I was so nervous, I really just tried to stick with the moves that like I know like there's no way that I'm gonna mess up. And that even if in my head I'm like freaking out, and also it's difficult, like you start sweating, like it's warm in there, and it's like you're on stage for like eight songs. It was it was a lot.
Eight
um
songs?
yeah, so it was 5 songs, I think, on the pole, and then 3 songs like just kind of, but it wasn't full songs. Like it's like shortened songs for like a live performance. So even though it sounds like a lot, but I was freaking out when I heard that. But it was more like 2-minute versions of the songs. So
It's a lot of
and so
minutes. Well,
honestly, like yeah, by the end of it, I was like repeating my tricks and really struggling and really sweating.
okay,
But
I'm still curious, and I'm sure our viewers and our listeners will be. Okay, so you say like, oh, you know what? They don't give you like a list of move, like you have to, right? Everybody can
yeah.
do what they shine at, and that's amazing. You for yourself going into that, how much of it was like planned, right? Because you don't really just go up there and like
Yeah,
know nothing, right?
I
Like,
know.
so what was kind of the prep work on your side going up to that? Like, how much of it you're like, okay, this is kind of my routine, or you go more with like, these are the combos that I want to hit. Like, how did you approach it?
Yeah, so we knew exactly the songs that we were going to dance to, so that helped because I just leading up to it, I just tried to freestyle to the songs and kind of just see like what looked good at certain moments and just think of the combos that I felt like I could include for each song. Um because yeah, like I felt like I needed to prepare something because otherwise I was gonna blank out. So I made a list and I was like, okay, these are the combos that I feel like I could put in for each song. And that helped me kind of just remember the tricks that I know. But I remember Nicole was seeing me like going over my list and she was like, you're not gonna do all of that. Like, you're not gonna remember all of that. Like, it's cute that you're doing that, but like don't be too hard on yourself. And so I feel like, just having her reassurance, because like she's toured with him like multiple times. So just having her reassurance made me feel better because I was like, okay, yeah, like it doesn't matter if I do the same trick twice. Like, as long as like there's no visible like mistake and I'm not falling off the pole, like everything's gonna be fine. Because at the end of the day, like we were backup dancers in a way, right? Because no one's gonna be like looking at us the entire time. They're there to look at Snoop Dogg, and we're just kind of like the addition to the show. So yeah.
And then, because in my mind, once again, I don't compete. That's not what I enjoy out of pole.
Uh-huh.
But you had competed prior to that. But that's very different, right? Because a pole competition is you basically building a whole routine, knowing exactly how that's going to go. And you also perform at a pole competition in kind of the best scenario. You're on stage by yourself. You know exactly how tall the poles are. They're also mounted poles, so they're on the ceiling.
Mhm.
People that aren't really sure. And then at Snoop Dogg, if I'm not mistaken, they're stage
Yeah.
poles, which mean they're kind of freestanding. So they
They're,
give
yeah.
a little bit, and that can be quite off-putting.
Yes.
So I'm imagining like 15,000 people sweating, huge lights, which makes you like sweat. And for
Yeah.
maybe I have a feeling people that listen to this poll, why else would you be on this podcast? I don't know. But if you don't know, when you really sweat, you're really slidey as a pole artist. So how was it like actually like on stage? Is it like super hot? Do you feel yourself just kind of slowly losing that grip? If so, how do you pivot that to keep on going?
Yeah, so I would say like the first song especially, like it was full adrenaline. Like I don't remember anything, you know. It looks good what I did, but I don't even really remember doing it. But yeah, the first song it was fine, but then obviously like as you get towards the end of the show, you start feeling more and more warm because I think also the arena starts warming up. But I was wearing my brand of grippy polewear, and that honestly was key because those I think the last two songs, like it was I could just feel myself sweating underneath my polewear, and I was like, thank God for the grippy sleeves and grippy thigh highs because otherwise like I don't know if I could hold myself onto the pole. Like I was sliding so much, like just I could feel my hands sliding. So that helped. But yeah, did you have like another question before that that I didn't answer?
No,
Okay, yeah.
that was my question. And
Yeah.
then you kind of just brought it up so casually that I'm like, let's talk about it. I love women in business,
Yeah.
and I want to talk about you as an entrepreneur. First of all, can you tell our viewers and our listeners, you have a brand. What is your brand? What do you sell?
Yes. So my brand is Divinity Polewear. So it's a line of polewear that really focuses on bringing innovative, like functional attire to pole dancing, but also in a way that is aesthetic and elegant, so that it doesn't look like functional attire. And what I mean by that is that so far all of our products are grippy, so they have like the sticky silicone material that helps you grip to the pole. And our first product was the grippy thigh highs with removable knee pads, which were a huge success, and they sold out in 12 hours. And then I restocked and they sold out in 2 days, and then they keep selling out every time I restock. So very, very popular, and I think like definitely like filled a certain gap on the market. Um, so yeah.
Heard really good things about
Oh, good.
an instructor here that really loves your full brand. So she was really pumped when I told her you'd be okay. I want to start at kind of the beginning of that story. How did you come up with the idea? And how do you open a business that does like pole wear? Like, what's
Yeah.
the process of that?
So I came up with the idea actually when I was training for my competition in 2022. So I had an idea for the routine, but I just had no like idea how to execute it in a way that like first of all would be safe and still look aesthetic. Because for that routine, since I was doing a lot of knee drops and split drops and kips and whatever, so I knew I needed to wear knee pads and I needed to wear ankle boots. But my thing with knee pads and ankle boots is I feel like they kind of they can ruin the lines of your legs. At least on myself. I feel like I prefer when I don't wear knee pads and I wear sandals. But sometimes like especially when you're performing or when you're doing a competition, like you need extra protection and you need like the ankle stability that boots can offer. So I was trying to figure it out. So I tried like thigh high pleasers and I really didn't like them on myself. I felt like it was like too grippy and I also felt like uh it just looked bulky on my legs. And then I tried like nude knee pads from several brands, but I still felt like although they're nude, like it's still like ruined, I felt like my lines. Um, and so then I was like, well, I wish I could just wear like thigh high socks because even before like launching my brand, like I really liked the aesthetic of thigh high socks with pleaser boots. But the thing with that is that you can't climb the pole, you can't do tricks because you're gonna slide off. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I wish that someone had just come up with like grippy thigh highs with knee pads. And so I was looking like to see if there's anything like that on the market and I found certain things that were similar, but it just wasn't exactly what I was looking for. Either like, I felt like it wasn't like it wasn't like grippy enough or it just wasn't like aesthetic enough. So then I was like, well, I should just do it myself. And I then like just started doing a bunch of research on like how do you launch a brand? Like how do you start a brand?
Well, that's
um
my question. And I laugh a little bit at that because then some people ask me the same thing because I own a pole studio and they're
mm,
like, how do you own a pole studio?
yeah.
Like, I don't know. I guess one day I just slowly started the process. And I
Yeah.
will say this to anybody who's listening, like, because I know most of our viewers and listeners are women.
Mhm.
Listen, you don't need to know everything from day one. It's
Yeah.
a little thing at a time, and then it kind of compounds and then it builds up. It's all right if you don't know, just know what the first step is, and then once you finish step one, like step two kind of happens. But okay,
Yeah.
so in your case, you kind of have an image of what you would want, or at least what
Mhm.
you think will work for you, right?
Yeah.
How do you, is it like what we see in the movies? You just sat down one night with like a notepad and you start scribbling? And if yes, where do you bring this scribble notepad? Like who do you bring it to for them to actually like make it happen?
Yeah. Well, yeah, what you said about like starting your post studio and everything, and just one day it just happened. That's how I feel with my brand. Like when people ask me, like, I don't know, like I kind of just did it. And now looking back, I'm like, how? I don't even know. But yeah, I just I had an idea and I felt like because I was so like invested in the community, I knew that like if I felt like this was a good product, then other people would see a need for it. So I was pretty confident in my idea from the start. And then yes, I did try to make some drawings or whatever. I'm not much of a drawer, but I did my best. And then well, yeah, like I said, I just started doing research on like how do you start a brand? And it just comes down to you have to find a manufacturer that's high quality and trustworthy and that can execute your design in the way that you envision it. So that's when I started doing my research for that. And I went through several samples before arriving to the actual product. And you know, throughout those samples, I started kind of like thinking, oh no, like they're not really getting it right. Like maybe what I want is like too complicated. Like I don't know if I could do it. But I was like very like determined that like it has to work, like, you know? So yeah, like I was very lucky that I was able to actually find the same manufacturers that work with other pullwear brands, like other brands that do grippy pullwear. So then I already like trusted that they knew what they were doing and that most likely their products would be high quality.
So how old is your pole brand right now?
Um, two 2.5 years.
Okay, and then you said your first product were the thigh highs, right? I know that now you also have sleeves.
Mhm.
How did that come about?
So, as I mentioned, I always loved the look of thigh-high socks with boots. And another thing that I always loved is long sleeve crop tops. And sometimes I would wear that if I were to do choreos and I didn't need to like climb up the pole and I didn't require that grip. Um, so then it kind of just came to me like, well, if I'm doing thigh highs, I should do like sleeves so that people could just pair them with like whatever bra they want and then they could turn like what they have into a whole different look, a whole different outfit. And yeah, I feel like once I got the thigh highs down, doing the grippy sleeves was a lot easier because I already trusted that the fabric was grippy and that it was high quality and um yeah, but then even that I had to go through several samples. So it's a lot of work, a lot of money invested. Thankfully, I had savings back then and invested like all of it into the business. But
It's a
yeah.
huge investment in
Yes.
yourself, being like,
Yeah.
I'm my savings and I'm seeing a vision and I
Mhm.
trust myself to try to make that happen. Like that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I was in a position at the time where I could like take that risk and, just follow like my vision and hope for the best.
Question for you. And this kind of, I guess it's subjective and it's probably going to change, but yeah, I just like asking because we look at people on social media, right? And it's such a highlight, and you're like, oh my God, like everything's so successful. Is there something that didn't work out or you're looking back on and you're like, listen, that was a failure, but it's all right because it brought you to where you're at today?
In terms of like my business?
Your business, your whole journey, any part of it that you felt kind of defeated at some point and you're like, okay, like this is not playing out how I thought it would be?
Well, I feel like business is always up and down. Like sometimes you have months where like it's going so well and like your sales are so good and you're like, "Oh my God, like everyone loves my stuff and everyone's buying." But then it's unpredictable and it's also affected by like the political and economical times that we're living in. So, some months I I'm not really doing anything different, but there's just like a big difference in like the revenue and it's always up and down. I feel like there's thankfully like I haven't like launched a product that really failed or anything. Knock on wood, but I feel like, sometimes you think that there's a lot of demand because you get messages and you're like, "Oh, like I want this color or I want this size." And then you're like, "Okay, like let me add it." But then when you add it, it's just not really like selling the way you had anticipated. So, I think earlier on like I really tried to like give people what they wanted right away because I was like, okay, they're saying this is what they want. But now I'm like, okay, no, like I need to be a bit more selective with where I invest my capital because I am a very small business and I have to manage my cash flow. So um it's exciting to like expand your inventory, but at the same time, like you can't like spread yourself too thin too quickly because then you have money that's like in inventory, and then like you need to wait for that to sell to be able to restock like more popular sizes. So it's like I'm still learning as I go, and trying to get better at like managing everything. But thankfully, I would say that for the most part, I would consider my business to be a success. But like I said, there's always like ups and downs.
Absolutely. And it's so funny because I'm sure that people listening will like find this too, depending on if they have their own brand or if they own a studio, if they have like workshops or whatever. But what you're saying like resonates for me so much too, right? Because as a studio owner, there's months I'm like, oh my God, that was a
Yeah,
great month. And like
yeah.
for no reason, then it was an amazing month. And then the month after, I'm like, what the heck happened? And then sitting on the feedback, a lot of my students are like, oh, we would love if you offered that class. So then, like, especially when I started, I was like, okay, let me just offer that class.
Mhm.
But then I would be here every day teaching like crazy. And I'm like, well, that class that people told me they wanted is not selling. So I'm here
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 people. And I'm like, had to start making decisions, right? And you're
Hmm.
completely right too. As a
Yeah.
business owner, I'm like, I've got to make rent, I've got to make payroll. I can't put all my cash in one thing trying for this to work. I got to manage cash flow. And like,
Yeah.
I feel a lot of people maybe like don't realize that if they're not really in that situation.
Yeah, for sure.
What you were saying kind of brings me to another question I want to ask. Because you're like, oh, people were asking for, let's say, like this or that, and I'm trying to make this happen. At this moment, do you feel like your brand is like what you really enjoy as an aesthetic and as functional garment to pull? Do you feel like that dictates what you add or don't add to your brand? Or do you feel like what you feel people are telling you is what you want to make happen? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit of both. Like I mentioned, it really started with my own like aesthetics and like feeling just what would look nice and what would be needed on the market. But like for example, right now I'm about to launch a new design of grippy gloves. And personally, like I don't wear grippy gloves because I just don't really see the need to. Like thankfully, like like dry hands is enough for me. But I have come to realize that a lot of people really struggle with sweaty palms, and liquid grip is not enough for them. Like it's still slippery. So I didn't realize that grippy gloves would be like a product that would be like so like high demand. um, and they had sold well last year when I had them, but then I hadn't like restocked them just because I was focusing on expanding my inventory elsewhere. And then I ended up having so many people like ask me like, when are you restocking? Like I can't pole dance without the gloves. Like I need them. Like, and I was like, oh my God, like I didn't realize that. So even though like that's one product that even though personally like I don't use them, um I can acknowledge that like some people really do. So I'm happy to like provide that for people, and if it helps them, that's great. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And then I'm not sure if this is a question or just a comment on my side. And then I'm not sure if this is going to come out creepy or not. Because before guests are on the podcast, like I look at, right, like the brands, the companies, the Instagrams, like whatever I like can find.
Yeah.
You always had good taste because like that is an aesthetic looking page. At least your Instagram, I'm like, oh,
Thank you.
so nice to look at.
Wow.
And then
Thank
like
you.
you're welcome. And you look so good in your thigh highs and your sleeves. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, yeah, just really good taste. And I'm like, were you just born with good taste? Or like, are you slowly working on like making the tweaks that are making that page so aesthetic and making your brand so nice?
In terms of like my brand page or my personal page or
Your
both?
brand page.
My brand.
I didn't snoop on your personal
Okay.
page. I
Well,
snuck. Well, not to lie, I did look at your personal and then your brand. Okay, But I wasn't sure if you were saying like your poll page, and I'm not sure if you have another one
Oh,
that's
yeah, my poll
what's
page.
your poll page and then your poll company.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I've always I mean, I started posting on Instagram back in 2016. So I've always like, I don't know, I've just enjoyed like social media, and like making things aesthetic and cute and whatever. But in terms of my brand, I actually most of the content that is posted on my Polewear page is just customers that pole dance in their items. So I actually haven't really like planned it out like in advance or anything. It's just kind of just happens. Like sometimes people collaborate the page on a reel, or I just repost things, and I'm really grateful that people create really cool, high quality content in my products without me having to like ask them or anything. So it means like they actually enjoy it. So that helps me out immensely, because then like I can reshare and like, make everything look nice on my page. But I think, yeah, in terms of like my personal like poll page, I do like really try to pay attention to like what I post, and I make sure that everything looks good. Sometimes like sometimes that's a bad thing, because sometimes I like really overthink, and I like don't post for a long time because I'm like, oh, it's not good enough. And I'm trying to get better at that.
Well, I think you're doing amazing, and I
Thank you.
feel like clearly people are feeling the same way because you have quite a massive online following. So I'm like, clearly, and it's not just because it's aesthetic, right? There's a lot of talent, and you do a
Yeah.
bunch of cool things. Like people follow you for different reason. I was just impressed
Oh,
at yeah, just the quality of the content and how everything's
thank you.
basically telling the viewers and the listeners, listen, if you don't follow Diana, go have a look at her page. It is beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. I kind of want to ask you one last question on your business, and then we'll move on to the last segment of the podcast. If sky's the limit, there's no boundaries, no limitation, what would you want your business to grow at? What would you see for it? What are you imagining for yourself?
Um, well, there's two parts of it, because I feel like my vision for my business is one thing, and then my vision for myself as a pole artist is another thing. So I'll
There you
answer
go.
both.
Yeah.
Um, for my business, right now, like I really am the face of my brand. But I would love to no longer be the face of my brand, and to just like be able to hire on different models, different dancers to like um do, professional photo shoots for our website, for our social media, and just kind of like be in the background. Like right now it makes sense for me to be the face of my brand, because I'm just starting and people already were familiar with me in the pole community. But I'd love for it to like reach a point where like people know the brand because they just know the brand, and they might not even necessarily know who started the brand or that it's my brand. So that's one thing. And I would love for that to really just reach a level where it's providing me like financial security. um, and then for myself as a pole artist, I love performing, and especially performing for artists at live shows, festivals. That's really my favorite thing. And I would love to do that more. And it's exciting because I've started noticing that more and more artists are using pole dancers in their live shows and music videos. So I think for me, like, that's my main thing. I just want to keep doing that. Like, I feel like once I experienced the thrill of being on stage with Snoop Dogg, yeah, I need to experience that again.
I love that. All right. And I won't take all your time for today. We're going to move on to the last segment of today, which is called the last grip. These are just like short, quirky questions for people to kind of know you a little bit better on, like, as a polar. You can give us as much or as little information on these answers as you want. And then, yeah, are you ready for the last grip?
Yes.
All right. Are you more a coffee or a tea person?
So I don't drink caffeine. So herbal tea, but I love herbal tea.
What is your favorite song to dance to right now?
It actually just got released yesterday. Got in a Woman by Gray. Check it out.
I'll have to listen to it.
Perfect pole song.
Okay, I'm spoon feeding this to you. What is your most loved pole outfit or accessory?
Definitely my Griffey thigh highs.
If you said anything else, I'd be upset.
Yeah.
Heels or barefoot?
Definitely heels. I feel like I'm not myself if I'm not in heels.
What would be one word you would use to describe your relationship with pole?
Life-changing.
Aw, that's the first one, and that's a really good one. I like that. Spin or static?
Definitely spin.
Okay. Choreo or trick?
More of a tricks person.
Morning practice or evening practice?
I'm not a morning person, so definitely evening.
Can you tell us 2 or 3 people that we should be following that we should be made aware of?
First one, Spinny Minnie, my instructor. I love her so much. She's so amazing. And the two dancers that inspired me on this journey, Anastasia Sokolova and Anastasia Shukturova.
Love that. Do you love or do you hate conditioning?
I mean, no one really loves conditioning, but it's good for you. So yeah, I try to do it sometimes.
Can you tell us your nemesis move or family of moves that you just hate? Maybe it's just because they don't naturally agree with you, or a move you've been working on and it's just not working, or something you just find ugly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few. One move that I think I've done once or twice in my life is Gennaro, and I've never done it again. So I feel like that's like a nemesis move. Also, not very much a fan of cup grip shoulder mounts. Don't really do those. And I have a weird thing with breast monkey. I don't know why. I never really do breast monkey moves. So yeah.
I say what to Janero because listen, Fonji and Janero are the 2 moves I hear the most here. And I have
Yeah.
a love for Janero, and I'm not an amazing puller. I'm like, I like that move, and I don't know why everybody hates on it.
That's so
Right?
interesting. Oh my God. Yeah.
And then to finish this off on like a good
Yeah.
note, what would be your favorite move or your favorite family of move?
Definitely anything that involves splits. So anything splitty. I would say like some of my favorites are the ballerina into Capezio split, Allegra, like extended Allegra, and dragon tail split, satellite. Like those are also pretty.
They are. They look so good.
Yeah.
They're so hard though.
I know. I know.
All right. Thank you so much for being on here today with us. It was such an amazing conversation. For our viewers and our listeners, I will put all the information in the caption below. So it is super easy for you to give Diana a follow. And yeah, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me once again. And it was really nice chatting.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Between the Poles. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Stay connected with us on social media, and we'll see you next time right here, Between the Poles.